Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome back to another Monday's edition. It is, of course, the 2nd of November. We have just had the Imola race. I welcome Steve Thompson in, our resident F1 aficionado. Steve, you wrote a beautiful write-up over the weekend to do with the race. I thank you, and the many fans that read it, thank you. Had some good words for you over the weekend, actually. How was your weekend first, before I tell you these good words?
It was okay. Obviously, the uncertainty that's going on right now. So I'm distracted by the dog again. I got distracted last time as well.
Everyone is. Everyone is. He's a fine specimen, is our Toby.
He's a handsome chap. It was okay. Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. And obviously, Boris Johnson did announce a lockdown. For those that maybe sat at home thinking, where does that leave Formula One? Just fill us in a little bit upon where that may leave Formula One.
I think by the sounds of it, it's going to continue unaffected because, I haven't heard too much about it because obviously the factories in the UK are still going as far as I know, but the F1 circus is still going from country to country. I'm assuming the factories are still operating as normal because most of them are based in the UK. I think with the exception of like AlphaTauri, Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, I think the rest of them are based in the UK.
So unchanged at this moment in time,
as far as I know. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we had another race to unpack. Well, I'll let you unpack it with another aficionado on the network. He is of course, the man, the myth, the Lando Norris fan, the only one, Mr. Neil Moles. Neil, welcome in. How you doing, my friend?
Hello there. I'm not the only one, Martin.
Are you not?
No.
But is it true? Can you confirm? Are you the spokesperson for the Lando Norris Appreciation Society?
No.
Is your address the registered address?
No.
Are you sure?
I can't claim to know more about him than anyone else because I don't. Okay. I just follow the lad because he's a good racing driver. That's about as far as it goes.
But if there was a Lando Norris Appreciation Society, would you join it?
I don't know it.
But would you join it?
Yeah, why not?
Steve, would you join? Oh, well, of course Steve would join.
I know what his one would be called.
Oh, what would his one be called?
Had to bin it under the safety car.
That's not even come from me this week, Steve.
I'm still heartbroken.
Yes, I know you. I've read the WhatsApp messages again today over the weekend from you. Oh, yes. George Russell once again came close to points. I'm going to start calling him the nearly man because he nearly.
I love how
go on.
Alonso gave him a compliment saying, how good and talented he is and, good future ahead of him. And then that happens. And then he gets contacted by a whole bunch of other drivers that are basically consoling that, they've done it, before and he'll grow stronger because of it.
What was it you called him on your write-up at the weekend, Steve? Mr. Saturday.
Mr. Saturday. Yeah, he's rapidly becoming known as that because his qualifying performances are fantastic. Because they are. He's dragging that car around. Latifi can't get out of Q1. He's rarely above sort of 18th on the grid, really. And Russell is repeatedly getting that car into Q2. I think 8 or 9 times. I think he's been in Q2 now. And unfortunately, either the car does go backwards on a Saturday because of a pace deficit, or he's made errors, or the car has just backed up. There's a number of factors. Thanks, Tim. By the way, that means a lot. Great to hear.
Yeah, told you. You are a rising star. You're a rising star. I have to get you signed to a long-term contract. Tim's also put a fantastic question, which I'll come back to, Tim, as we go through this evening. It's a fantastic question. I'll come back to it. But I just want to kick things off, obviously, with Hamilton and the race itself. How was it won? Why was it won? Unpack this race for us, guys.
Well, I was going to start with Giovinazzi.
Oh,
the fact that he was last on the grid and then ended up finishing 10th.
Yeah, it was a brilliant race, man.
A little bit of an under-the-radar sort of drive there, isn't it? Because no one really mentioned much about it. And then Kimi, finished 9th ahead of him. So you think for Alfa Romeo, that's some nice points for him, considering the season they've had.
Kimi said
20th on the grid.
Yeah, and did I read that Kimi said if Alfa Romeo had more patience, it would have led to a bigger points haul? I'm sure I read that. Do you also buy into that philosophy? Do you also feel that if they were more patient, there would have been more points on offer?
I don't know. I think they probably got the maximum that they could, really, because the car it's not going to be able to compete with the cars around like the McLarens or that sort of thing. So I think they made the most out of that race. And fair play to them, because Kimi, 49 laps on one set of tyres is fantastic. And Giovinazzi, like you say, Neil, really good under the radar performance. Absolutely nailed it. The racecraft was great, and he was fighting, I think, out of the points, he was fighting with Latifi a lot and sort of Grosjean and that sort of thing. And
did he do an early pit stop and basically just done a lot of racing on his own?
Yeah, he did.
Got
I think
good laps in, and then when everyone else pitted, he jumped up the order.
Yeah, both Alfa and Giovinazzi nailed it. They really did. They nailed it with both drivers in terms of strategy. The VSC, not the VSC, sorry, the safety car was fortunate for them as well.
That's where I was coming in for if we were starting with Hamilton.
Oh.
Very lucky with, why not come onto the start-finish straight, right by the pit lane? Oh, look, the virtual safety car. Thank you very much.
Oh, that really irritated me. Bloody Ocon handed that race to Hamilton on a plate. Because, I'm not...
engine failure?
I think it was, yeah. I don't know if... Well, Bottas probably wouldn't have won that race anyway because he had that massive-sized piece of Ferrari debris. Did you see that? It was huge.
Yeah, I didn't...
Half an end plate from a front wing.
Where did it even hit on his car?
I think it was trapped, well, somehow, like I said, like front left around the floor. So I want to say sort of around the radiator sort of area, but I'm not too sure. But it was a piece of Sebastian Vettel's front wing, I think, because there's footage of Vettel going around with half his end plate missing when he hit the Haas. He was carrying that for the entire race. And so it's unlikely he would have won. And obviously, if Verstappen hadn't had his incredible tyre failure, whether he'd have been able to challenge for the lead or not. But that victory that VSC just gifted Hamilton that win on a plate, because as soon as he comes in the pits, it's active. And as soon as he's done, it's deactivated. Come on.
You think earlier, was it Monza, he was complaining, saying that the championship is against him. And then that basically is like completely the opposite.
No, that's rubbish.
Have you
trying
seen
to stop me?
You think other seasons, like when Rosberg was in the team, the starts he's had the last couple of races, he would be absolutely panicking to try and get anything out of it.
Yeah.
And then he's done that the last two races now. Having Bottas as a teammate and Verstappen being in a car that's not good enough, basically is just gone, thanks, I'll take the points.
It's giving it to him on a plate, isn't it? Because if that was Rosberg who was on pole yesterday and Hamilton alongside him, Hamilton obviously got a bad start and fell behind Verstappen and almost Gasly as well until he really shut the door on Gasly. He'd have been panicking trying to get past Rosberg, because Rosberg wouldn't have made it easy. Bottas does still make it too easy. Going back to Portugal the week before, he just moved right over, basically said, here you go, through you go. Rosberg wouldn't have done that. He'd have nudged him onto the grass if he needed to.
Tim Reddish, like
in Barcelona,
should pitting under the safety car be banned, as it gave a massive advantage to Hamilton? He won by default.
They did that. I'm not sure what the years were or whether it was just one season, but they made it so under the safety car you couldn't pit unless it was for an emergency scenario. There would be like a red light on the end of the pit lane, and there would people were getting penalties left, right and centre, because they'd be, I think that was when you could refuel as well. They'd be either low on tyres or low on fuel, and it would be coming right ready for their pit stop, and then a safety car scenario would happen, and then they're screwed because they come into ready for their pit stop that they were going to do, and then you can't.
No, that's it. I do sort of agree that it should be banned, because it robs people of a good race and a great finish. We could have had a fantastic finish yesterday if Bottas hadn't had that damage. There's a lot of what-ifs. If Verstappen hadn't had that tyre failure, we could have had a fantastic three-way fight to the finish there. But
if Migran had wheels, should be a bike.
There you go. Well, actually, no, we wouldn't have had a good three-way finish because Bottas would have buckled, so it would have been a two finish.
By the way, in case she's watching, those are Gino De Campo's words, not mine.
Yeah,
I remember it, mine. Don't worry.
Just in case she's watching, I'll just call her.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, Dan.
I feel though that season or seasons when you had the scenarios of people needing to pit and then they couldn't pit, and then because they did pit they got a penalty, that screwed up their races, all for the stupidity of not being able to pit when you want to pit. I just feel it's just adding something silly in for no real reason. If luck just falls in your lap and you happen to gain from a pit stop or from a safety car, that's just how the dice roll. I don't think you can do a lot about that.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because you think on another day it'd be someone that you two really like, so you wouldn't really worry about it.
Oh no, if it happened to Ricardo or Russell or anyone, oh yeah, fine, take it. But no. The thing with Formula One, there's a lot of luck obviously involved in Formula One as well. Hamilton got a great deal of that yesterday. He's had quite a lot recently, but it's not just him. Obviously, other drivers have been lucky as well. It's always going to be there in Formula One. It's always going to be a big contributing factor. You can't take that. So,
isn't it part of it as well though? Adds to it.
Yeah,
tactically as well as anything else.
Yeah, the thing is, I think there's less. I mean, back in maybe the late 90s, early noughties, when I was watching Formula One, when I was obviously a younger kid, Schumacher would be 20 seconds out in the lead. And you think, okay, so he's that far ahead, but anything can happen to his car because his engine could go, suspension, whatever it may be. Whereas now, you think Hamilton's 20 seconds in the lead, and he's probably going to finish there because his teammate has got no testicles anyway. And the cars are now so solid and so reliable, he's unlikely to break down. So he's probably just going to cruise to a finish again.
But wasn't it, what's his name? The Lotus guy. He said that basically a car should be built well enough that once it crosses the line, it falls to bits.
I think, was it Colin Chapman who said that?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have that anymore because that engine has to do, 3 engines to do the whole season?
There was, I was watching footage of Michael Schumacher. I think it was... maybe it's Imola moments. It was on the F1 YouTube channel, but I think it's like 5 Imola moments you forgot or something. And it was Schumacher who was pushing so hard in qualifying that he pushed so hard his car actually broke. He broke the suspension because he was pushing so hard, and you just don't get that anymore.
No.
Plus, they always tell the drivers, go easy on the car, go easy on your tyres. That's not what it should be about. Go for it. Push for 60 laps.
That is where last week you were talking about what should and shouldn't be said over the radio. I can't remember which race it was earlier in the season where they kept telling Mercedes, keep off the curbs. You think if they couldn't say that, the drivers would have just done their thing. And we don't know. They might have had an issue or they might not. But
that was like back in Austria, wouldn't it? Start of the season.
I believe so, if I remember rightly. You mentioned teammates there. Have we got a Bemoaning Bottas segment this week? Did he do anything wrong? Do anything right? Was it a good race, bad race?
He hit debris. He said he saw it, and he tried to go central on the car with it, so it didn't bust his tyres or anything. Instead, it ruined something else, and then from there on in, his race was done. So,
I can't really do a Bemoaning Bottas segment this weekend. I mean, he put it on pole on Saturday.
He lucked into second because Verstappen had a tyre blowout.
Well, to be fair, yes. And there's a small Bemoaning Bottas because he lucked into second and he could have avoided that debris. Everyone else managed to avoid it on the other lap. But he put it on pole and he pulled the lap out of the bag because Hamilton was quicker. And then Bottas, fair play to him, put a great lap in for pole position. And he led away quite well at the start of the race. And then hit debris, and he was the executor of his own downfall, really.
Yeah, but did everybody else avoid it because on the radios they're saying, they're talking their driver through upon where it is in coming up in the lap. Without the radios, and I don't know, I didn't catch this bit, but without the radio chatter, would they have necessarily avoided it? Was it avoidable as such? Because Bottas is a very skilled driver, Steve.
Well, now I think about it. To be fair, because it was also on lap 1 when Vettel hit Grosjean. So he got lap 1, he got the damage, and that was towards the back of the field.
Was he first to get there?
So Bottas was first to get there on the next lap. So people, they wouldn't have bothered saying there's debris on the track because they thought it'd probably be picked up by the next time they come around. And then Bottas just just hit it. Just thought, sod it, I'll sabotage myself. Why not? So he lucked into second because he would have been a distant third place if Verstappen hadn't retired.
He thought, I know, I'll avoid the bemoaning Bottas segment I have to listen to every week on the Fan Show Live. And surely they'll give me a pass.
No, he thought, I'm going to lose to Hamilton anyway. I'll give him a reason why.
Exactly.
Yep,
And
I can't be seen to
moaned.
be just beaten. I'll actually cause something this time.
Oh, Steve. Bless you.
He'll do
Bless
something
you.
right one day, don't worry.
Talk to us about Russell then, because you were in
too.
my WhatsApp page. He's going to get points. I'm so happy. This is so going great. And then it turned to nightmares. Nightmare on Elm Street.
It looked amateur as anything.
It was the another thing on quali, because Saturday, 13th on the grid, and he wasn't far off the top 10. So the Williams was there on merit. It was brilliant. Ahead of a Ferrari again, which isn't great anyway, but so close to the top 10. And I thought, I just had a feeling that, with this sort of track, because it's also a tricky circuit to overtake on, if he can make up a few positions, either be it through a good start or retirements or pit stops, he could be in with a shot. And with everything that was going on, he was in with a good shot. And it was an amateur mistake because he just lit up the rear tyres as the car hit a bump, lost all control, and speared it into the barrier. And as soon as I was watching the Formula 1 yesterday with my friend, and we saw the Williams in the barriers, and I was praying that it was Latifi. Although I don't want to see a Williams crash, I was praying it was Latifi, and I saw the number 63. And it was genuinely heartbreaking. I was more annoyed about his retirement than Hamilton's win. I was gutted.
It's the sort of thing I would expect off Grosjean, but
he's done it before, hasn't he?
Russell.
Grosjean.
Come on.
It is so frustrating because it was just that split second and boom, he's gone. And just seeing him sitting by the side of the track, just thumping his own knee out of frustration, I just wanted to go and hug him. Obviously, I can't because social distancing, but I just wanted to go and give him a 2-meter hug.
Because, without the social distancing, it'd be fine, wouldn't it, Steve?
Oh, yeah, he'd love it. He knows I like him. I'm sure he watches this every week as well, so.
Oh, we don't know. Let him in, Stuart. Let him in. It's Steve.
George.
From the Fan Show Live. It's fine. We all know Steve. Everyone knows Steve. The way you two talk about George Russell, I'm going to be honest, it's almost like Paul Pogba of the football world, right?
Not really. I don't like Paul Pogba.
Well, okay, maybe it's a wrong example, but it's a world superstar that people big up, and then the newbies, watch it and go, "Was that it? Is that him?"
Also, Paul Pogba acts like he's up his own bum. Russell, I don't get that with him either.
The name Paul Pogba was maybe the wrong player to use, but the analogy is still. I hear a lot of good things about George Russell, and then I see things like at the weekend, and I hear things, and it's an amateur mistake, and I'm thinking somebody is talented, somebody is good. You're in touch, and this is your first points. What went wrong to cause the amateur mistake? Was it a rush of blood to the head of I'm getting to the point. This is it. This is the moment. Or is there a nerve thing? Is there what is it?
I think that to start with, unlike some of the drivers where they're in better cars, he's potentially in one of the worst cars on that grid. So whatever he does with it is because he is absolutely dragging it by its heels. So all of that effort, if he had a bit of an easier car to drive, then I don't think quite so many of these little scenarios would happen, because it would just be easier under his control, and things he wouldn't be dragging it quite so much. But it was just one of those little amateur mistakes, and I suppose all the best to him, and as they say, he'll learn from it. So
has he got to be consistently like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 to get the most out of that car, and that's why you occasionally get these slips, because you've got to be literally, there's no drop off, there's no error for a mistake in this car.
Well, what he did basically was a very simple, I'll say simple error, but it was basically because when he came around the corner, because they were all bunched up behind the safety car, they were obviously losing tyre temperature. And you want as much temperature on your tyres as you can for that. You want to get a good restart and keep the tyres hot. And he just booted the throttle at the same time the car was going down a hill over a bump. So the car sort of lifted as he hit the throttle on cold tyres, and it was just, there's nothing he could do to save it. And it was quite an amateur mistake. It's that sort of thing he's going to learn from. It will make him stronger. So I mean, he was the first on the radio, the first to admit, look, I was stupid and it was a silly error. I wouldn't necessarily expect that sort of thing from him now because he's almost at the end of his second season in Formula One, and he rarely makes mistakes. Certainly not race-ending mistakes.
When you were saying how hard he has to push to get anything, I'd say maybe for Russell to get similar results to Norris, you could say could potentially do maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10 and get where he's getting. For Russell to get anywhere near it, he's going to have to be putting a 10 in that car.
I think this year we're seeing a more realistic fight because last year, I mean, it's brilliant because his records currently in qualifying currently stands at like 34-0. He's never been out-qualified by a teammate, which is awesome. But you think last year he had Robert Kubica, who was quite old. Well, not old, he's probably mid-30s, so quite a bit older than Russell was at that point. He's come back to Formula One after almost 10 years out. He's got that arm injury, so he hasn't got full mobility in that arm. So you think maybe it would have been easy to beat him, but he did also have the worst car on the grid by a long way because that Williams was dog shit last year. It really was. This year, the car is a lot better. That's clear to see. It's still, like Neil said, probably the worst car on the grid. I think it's not far off the Haas, to be honest. But it's still way down there. Latifi's not even trouble in Q2. And George Russell, in an identical car, wasn't far off the top 10. And he's been consistently challenging Q2 for most of the season.
Q2 isn't even remotely scared of Latifi, is it?
It's really not. Maybe 18th is, but that's about it.
Which race was it that Russell was battling Vettel or trying to battle Vettel?
Mugello.
Yeah, that really showed to me how much effort he was having to put into that car to even remotely get it anywhere. And that car basically just said no to him.
Yeah. But I was
he was
quite
trying
worried.
to overdrive it.
He was. I was getting quite worried yesterday as well because Latifi found himself running up in 11th towards the end of the race. I thought he's one place off the points. And because it's like the third time Latifi's finished 11th. And I really want Williams to get the points, but I really want it to be Russell that gets those first points.
Because we'll be saying how good Latifi is compared to Russell because he's got the points.
But he's no Russell. And because Russell deserves it. I mean, so does Latifi, to be fair, because they both had to put up with this car and everything that's happened to Williams this year as well and the uncertainty. But his performances, Russell has warranted scoring those points first. You know, his quality performances, his race performances, but Latifi just sort of keeps his head down. It's getting there. I mean, I don't know if they'll score before the end of the year because you've got Turkey coming up next. I can't see that being a track that suits Williams. It's quite a fast circuit and the car is quite draggy. Yes, Imola, almost. Let's just go back there. But next year, or 2022.
No, this year. We'll get points this year.
They'll have to move the DRS line because they were struggling, weren't they, up to the first corner?
Yeah.
Just wasn't quite long enough for them.
No.
And that's without that chicane that they used to have, the one where Hakkinen binned it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just looking at our top fives from last week. A driver that you both featured, Perez. Talk to me about his race this weekend.
Well, I was going to talk about his teammate. That stupid bust to the front wing.
That's
like,
fine.
what are you doing, man?
Oh, yeah.
But, well, after forgetting that silly bit.
And he ran over his crewmate as well.
He said, sorry, the brakes are cold. Well, if you know the brakes are cold, brake a bit earlier, you idiot.
Yeah. I'm going to use that excuse in Tesco car park next week. Sorry, my brakes were cold.
You're going to bowl over an old lady and go, sorry, my brakes are cold.
My brakes were cold. That's all right. It's fine. Carry on.
Apparently, all the pit crew were okay, though, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never nice to see. I've seen a pit crew get run over.
Before we do, Tim Reddish, after watching Man United lose yesterday and all the players went off as if they couldn't care less, to see the disappointment and heartache Russell experienced was fantastic to see. So another Russell lover, or fan, sorry.
I take it, obviously, you mean that it's not fantastic to see him off, but I'm assuming it's good to see his disappointment and heartbreak. And yes. It's nice to see that because you can see how much it means to him and he's realised what he's done and how much it hurts him. And it is nice to see a driver have that passion and that care, I suppose, because some drivers will get out of the car and be like, oh, yeah, sorry, guys. Like Kimi probably would, for example. Sorry, guys. I'm going home. But Russell.
Yeah, it's because Kimi probably strolls in there and knows 100% that no one could do better than him. So
Yeah.
And just because we're closing in on it really, but I will come back to the race very quickly. But just this question came in earlier from Tim. Do you think Ricciardo has made the correct choice? If he was making it today, would he stay with Renault?
100%.
I reckon he's still doing McLaren.
While McLaren was doing really well early on, he was absolutely loving his decision. And while Renault were being really sour and not very nice to him, but the thing is, at the start of the season, they were saying that the team as a whole, it's not as nice to be part of as the McLaren team. So I don't know whether that's still there, considering they're actually getting good results now and things or not. But
I think there's two levels of expectation of McLaren really, because the two teams, because Renault are a manufacturer team. Obviously, next year they're going to be Alpine, but they're still obviously that Renault family. So it's got to be a lot of pressure on them to succeed, because Renault is a very successful brand in Formula One, as is McLaren. But obviously, being a manufacturer, you want that success. McLaren is a team on the rebuild. I think next year it's still a good choice, because McLaren historically do make very, very good cars chassis-wise, and they're going to have a Mercedes engine bolted to the back of it next year, which I think is brilliant. So
I must admit,
it's the right choice.
I struggle to get behind the last few races, because I just watch it and McLaren's not going anywhere. Another good one then. Here we go. Let's go for another mediocre race, and then everyone around us getting points. So yeah.
Williams fan, come on. You're preaching to the choir there.
Certainly is. Right, before we leave, any last things we want to discuss from this weekend?
Well, the whole reason Ricciardo got the podium was because Perez pitted. Perez was really hacked off because he was going to get that third place. They pitted him with tyres and being a hard track to overtake. But didn't they do that earlier in the season? They just made some silly decisions that have basically meant they've lost out.
Yeah, they've binned it before, haven't they? And also, a good point to raise from yesterday's Grand Prix. What the hell was Albon doing? Just spinning of his own accord. Brilliant.
Well, they thought Sainz hit him. Well, he almost did.
Sainz almost did.
On board. But
Perez had that fantastic move around the outside of him, which was awesome. Really well done. And Albon just, I've had enough. And he just went zoop, off on his own accord. I think that may have sealed his fate at Red Bull.
They're saying that, basically it's not looking good for him.
No, because that's another situation of Verstappen being out of the race and they need a solid second driver to pick up the pieces, and he just can't do it.
Kvyat done well, didn't he? And Gasly was unlucky with his coolant issue. Yeah.
Gasly, I don't want to see Gasly back at Red Bull. I think it's just going to be bad for his career again. It's going to just knock him back. Kvyat's obviously had his time there in the past. I can't see him being in F1 next year despite that drive. It was awesome because Honda apparently are very keen to put Yuki Tsunoda alongside Gasly for next year.
Ted said that Hülkenberg will be better mentally to be beaten week in, week out by Verstappen. Perez might not handle that quite so well.
It's going to be Perez or Hülkenberg, surely. Well, I'd love to say so anyway, because you've got Alfa Romeo obviously confirmed Raikkonen and Giovinazzi for next year. So that would open the door at Haas for maybe Schumacher and or Schwartzman, Eilert. One or both of them.
There was another one. There was Schumacher and another name that was mentioned.
Schumacher, Eilert, Schwartzman. Tsunoda probably going to AlphaTauri.
Is it Mazepin?
Mazepin, Nikita Mazepin. Yeah,
I think Schumacher and Mazepin were mentioned. So, but that's going to be at Haas because that's like the only place there is left now.
And Haas have got very close ties to Ferrari, of course. Schumacher and a lot of the young drivers being Ferrari-backed drivers. So, I think Hülkenberg would do really well in the Red Bull. I'd love to see it be him, but I can see it all being Perez.
Then you've got that Tsunoda. Possibly replacing
He'll go to AlphaTauri. Honda are very keen to put him in there. So I reckon he'll go to AlphaTauri, definitely.
Perfect.
Really matters now they're leaving, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well done, Honda.
Well done, Honda. And there we go. Half hour in the books. We're done.
Good job.
Yeah, we're back again next week. Obviously, it's a free weekend next weekend. Or is it? Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It is. And it's Turkey the weekend after.
There's a junior test that Renault wanted Alonso to drive for.
Yeah,
driving it.
39-year-old man, junior test.
And McLaren amongst a few teams snubbed him doing it. So, yeah, well done,
I can't
McLaren.
think why. Can you?
There's
The
a
fact that
few.
he's almost middle-aged.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. Right, so we're back next week. We'll discuss a few drivers next week. Maybe some that we haven't mentioned this week, some that we mentioned or haven't mentioned at all. Just one final comment before we go. Tim Reddish, Ricciardo really did jump the gun. If he had waited, he could have been back at Red Bull. But just answer that very quickly before we go. That'll be the last bit of action for the F1 show this weekend. Could he have gone to Red Bull if he had waited?
No.
I don't think he ever wanted to be there. He left there because he didn't want to be Red Bull's second fiddle to Verstappen. That was the whole reason.
Verstappen.
He saw out Vettel. Vettel had to leave because Ricciardo was showing him up. And that was when Vettel was at the top of his game. And then Verstappen came in, and for whatever reason, Red Bull basically ditched Ricciardo. So he said, nah, this isn't for me. So I don't think he would ever go back.
No.
Perfect. Fine. There we go. So we're back next week, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Myself, Steve, and Neil. But for this week, Steve, lead us out.
Thanks very much for watching. Thanks for the comment on the article, by the way, Tim. It does mean a lot. It's nice to see people reading, watching, having a say, getting involved. It means a hell of a lot to us all. So thank you very much. We'll see you next Monday at 8 p.m. Hopefully there'll be some big F1 news to bring you regarding drivers or who knows, but we shall see.
Absolutely. Done
and we can look on to Turkey.
Yes.
We certainly
Can't
can.
wait for
It is nearly Christmas.
There you go.